Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay at the back? Yeah? It's an absolute joy to be here. Thank you, Midwifery Society, and thank you to our angels for inviting me to speak. This is my alumni mater university, and I absolutely adore it. So I'm not wearing this hoodie for no reason at all. I just love this university. I am where I am because of it. The nurturing, the love, the support, the education that I've had has taken me to the role that I am in. I've also been trained as a midwife and educated, and have been a head of midwifery in Bradford. So today, being invited to speak means a real lot to me. It's so personal, so important that I'm here today at a personal level. I'm going to be really honest and really transparent and say, baby loss I'm passionate about. It's a really important aspect of the work that I do in the Royal College of Midwives. But in terms of the actual data and the expertise and the evidence behind it, I am not an expert. So I have to acknowledge thanks to my colleague Gail Johnson at the Royal College of Midwives, who I have borrowed one or two of her slides and the data that's in there. I'm not absolutely 100% au fait, so I will just be simply regurgitating it. But if there are any questions about the data, do come back to me on email or direct message on Twitter. I'm happy to get answers to. I think I'll just move on. Okay, so Royal College of Midwives. Now that slide is actually slightly out of date. We now have over 47,000 members. When I joined the Royal College of Midwives 8 years ago, that we had something in the region of 43,000 members. So we are a growing organisation. We are the leading organisation for midwives, a professional organisation, obviously a trade union as well. But actually, the work that we're doing, there's not a lot goes on in maternity care without the Royal College of Midwives being involved. Now, I don't know if this is a reflection on how you're all feeling out there, but certainly it's a reflection on how I'm feeling and how the Royal College of Midwives team are feeling at this point in time in terms of maternity care. Because no matter what way you turn, it's in the press, it's in the media, it's on social media, we've got new policies coming into place, which I've got one slide about the new policy. No matter, we've got supervision regulation, all the changes, you just feel as if there's a big storm brewing up out there. But actually, when you actually look at what we're all doing, students studying hard at university, working in their clinical placements, and midwives working in the clinical areas, we're actually getting on with it quite nicely. But meantime, there's raining chaos outside, all this change is actually happening. So whether that's a reflection of how you're feeling or just me or just the team at the Royal College of Midwives, I think that kind of, that sums it up for me, that the work is moving forward and we're doing an awful lot of good work out there. So no matter what the negativity is in the press or social media, you are student midwives, maternity support workers are doing a brilliant job, so hang on to that. Okay, so there's a lot of data. You can have a copy of these slides, so no problem at all. So don't worry about taking notes. But I think before we talk about baby loss, we have to have some clear definitions. And we're looking at the Perinatal Institute's definition to be absolutely clear. And we've got for miscarriage the RCOG Green Top Guidelines. So perinatal is the period surrounding birth, and it includes the time from fetal viability from 24 weeks up to 7 to 28 days of pregnancy. Perinatal mortality is fetal deaths after 24 completed weeks and death before 7 completed days. Now, stillbirth is where a child has issued forth. It's a very technical definition from this, but this is the one that we use at the RCM. Issued forth from its mother after the 24th week of pregnancy, which did not at any time after being completely expelled from its mum breathe or show any other signs of life. Terribly sad definition, terribly technical definition, but a really clear definition. Neonatal mortality before the age of 28 completed weeks following live birth, and early neonatal death up to 7 days, late neonatal death after 7 days up to 28. And infant mortality is in the first year following a live birth. And miscarriage, spontaneous loss of a pregnancy before the fetus has reached viability at 24 weeks. And I think medical, midwifery and professionals have been criticised for the use of their terminology, and I think it is something that the professions have to bear in mind, particularly when we're looking at definitions and defining. But for the sake of data, we have to be really, really clear that we've got clear definitions. That was a bit of a repetitive thing. Never mind. Okay, so another standard or another good way to actually give us feedback and look at data is Embrace, and they do an awful lot of UK surveillance, and their report in 2015, which was the fetal loss, stillbirths, neonatal deaths from 2014, actually gave us some information in terms of we had made a little bit of progress in terms of stillbirth. There was a small decrease in the number of stillbirths, so that was really good news. But I think it's really worrying and really concerning, given the amount of efforts, the amount of policies, standards and evidence that we've got and trying to improve practice, that this decrease was only very, very small. But at least it was a step in the right direction. The perinatal mortality rate then was 5.92 per 1,000 total live births, 4.16 stillbirths per 1,000 total births, and 1.77 neonatal deaths per 1,000. And that was actually higher, so that's the bad news in terms of the report, than those reported in the best performing European countries. So in fact, I've got a slide to show in terms of Europe. We do not perform terribly well. We're way down there in terms of Europe. Pregnancies to women living in areas of high social deprivation are over 50% more likely to end in stillbirth. Now, given the area that the health economy that we cover in Bradford, that's a really serious piece of data and something that we really need to get our heads around in this health economy, because we do have a lot of social deprivation in this health economy. Babies of mothers who are black British and Asian or Asian British ethnicity had the highest risk of extended perinatal mortality rate, and that was 9.9 and 8.7 per 1,000 total births respectively. Again, within this health economy, a really important piece of data when we're looking at improving, we're looking at the evidence, we're looking at trying to improve that statistic and trying to move that data and that statistic and improve on it. So I think it's something that this particular area, but when you look at a slide that I've got later, comparison to the South-West, they have slightly different issues, but we need to bear that one in mind. So stillbirth, which is one of the biggest challenges that midwives, student midwives, and to a degree maternity support workers are really very challenged with when they're providing care to women and their families who have this very sad and very poor outcome in pregnancy. And that's babies born after 24 weeks gestation, irrespective of when the death occurred, showing no signs of life. An intrapartum stillbirth, which is another serious tragedy, another one that really impacts on midwives trying to give care. You start labour, everything's going positive, everything's going well, and you end up having a stillbirth. It's a real challenge. It's horrendous for the parents, it's horrendous for the families, and it's also horrendous for midwives and support workers that are actually delivering care. So that's something that we just really need to think about. The size of the problem. I think this is a really good piece of terminology, thanks to Gail Johnson. A neglected epidemic of grief globally. And if you look at this global data, and this is data that we know about, this is reported data. There's a lot of data out, there's a lot of information out there, but there's a lack in data, because we only know what we know in terms of what is reported, in terms of the countries that actually have things in place, reporting mechanisms and audit. So 2.6 million stillborn babies annually. You can hardly even get your head round that statistic. That's 7,300 per day. Still difficult to get your head round. In the UK at a national level, 5,712 sleeping babies who were stillborn or died within the first few days of life. And that's 2013 data. 15 babies a day. 15 babies, far too many. 10 too many stillborn sleeping babies. Absolutely horrendous statistics. Horrendous. Given what we're trying to do in the NHS and as midwives, student midwives and so on. So the term a neglected epidemic of grief, I think, sums it up beautifully. And there's the slide to show where we sit in Europe. England and Wales were fourth. Scotland, Northern Ireland not far behind. Isn't it interesting when you look at who's the best performer? The Czech Republic. So the question is, what are they doing in Czech Republic and Iceland and Finland and Germany? What are they doing that we are not doing, that we can learn from them and improve our stillbirth rates? Because those figures that we have are disgraceful, they're shocking, and that is not down to any one profession or any one reason. There is a systematic failure somewhere here. There's something that we're not doing right, and there's something that we need to do in terms of learning from the other countries. UK stillbirth rates, and you can see on the map there, you can see where we sit in the Yorkshire and Humber region. We're second from the top. The only worst place in the country to live is London. I think that's, again, something that we need to think about. What is it in Yorkshire and Humber that is very different from the southwest of England? Is it the care? Is it the diet? Is it the kind of lifestyles? Who knows? We really need to find out more about this, but we're not in a very good place in terms of 5.1 per 1,000 stillbirth rates in Yorkshire and Humber, so food for thought. Another piece of data just to ring the message home, 776,350. Do you know, I forgot to put the right teeth in today. And 2,127 babies born sleeping each day, 10 babies stillborn. Terribly sad. And that's infant mortality rate per 1,000 live births in terms of global data, in terms of ethnic. So what are the risk factors that are associated with poor outcomes in pregnancy, stillbirths, neonatal deaths? Approximately 10% of stillbirths will be related to congenital factors and associated prematurity. And I think that's something that prematurity, why do women have premature births? And now there's a paper out, there's evidence that's saying that, even between 37 weeks and 42 weeks gestation, that it isn't good to give birth, that things tend to go wrong. We used to think that 37 weeks was fairly safe, but the evidence is starting to show actually it's not as safe as we thought. So the nearer to term a woman gets, bearing in mind that it is an estimated date of delivery, that the nearer to that date they get, the safer it is for the baby to birth. So in terms of prematurity, there's some more work and there's some more research to be done in that field. 30% of stillbirths occur between 37 and 42 weeks. Women aged under 20 years and over 40 have a 39% higher risk. So that says something, obviously, around our teenage pregnancies and our older mums. And again, the data is starting to show that more and more women are choosing to have their babies when they're older, a lot are choosing rather than having them when they're younger. So is this the question going to end up having more and more poor outcomes in pregnancy, or are we going to actually put something in place, or are we going to find out what the cause is and are we going to do something about it? Black and British, Asian or Asian British women have a 50% higher risk. That's a big piece of data, big piece of statistic, 50% higher risk. And of course we all know about pre-existing medical conditions, diabetes, cardiac disease, epilepsy, hypertension, and there's a lot of work going on out there in terms of all of these underlying medical conditions. And as we know, placental dysfunction, maternal infection, particularly sepsis and GBS, and poverty, 57% higher risk if you are living in a deprived area. Continued risk factors, other risk factors, continuing talking about that theme, the BMI of women over 30. Now, over 30 doesn't, to me, being a woman of my size, seem terribly high, but that is what the evidence is saying, that over 30. Most women, I think, are well over 30 when they're coming to the booking clinic. Obviously, we've got women with much higher morbidity in terms of their morbid obesity problems, but the majority of women, I would say, are greater than a BMI of 30. Smoking, we all know about smoking. Everybody's working really hard to try and address smoking. 47% higher in women who smoked. Poor attenders, women that are not accessing antenatal care, are women who are asylum seekers, are women who are refugees, are women that don't know, women who are just vulnerable, women, travelling population, etc. They just don't know where to access antenatal care. Alcohol and substance misuse, problems with the placenta, IUGR, all linked to poor outcomes, and diminished fetal movements, malnourishment, also, as well as obesity, which is an interesting one. I don't know what the size of the problem is in terms of malnourishment, but it's clearly an issue, and over post-maturity. So Embrace identified that there was lots of unexplained cases as well, unexplained cases and some issues that still had to be looked at and that were also missed. We have, of course, the systems failure. We have the issues that are surrounding issues that have been in the press, Morecambe Bay, etc., mid-staffs, all of those issues that we're all faced with in the NHS. We have got poor staffing, we have got inappropriate skill mix, we have got teams that are dysfunctional, they don't work together, poor communications, inappropriate guidelines, and an acceptance of a culture which is one of my specialties, undermining behaviour and bullying in the NHS. There is an acceptance of that, and that is one of the system's failures that we're working really hard to address. Embrace also identified that with different care, with improved care, with better cultures, better training, better communications, that actually 30% of the babies that were lost would not have died. 30%, that is a huge number. And when you think that we're understanding some of the reasons why, then that is an absolute disgrace. We need to really think. Systems leaders, managers, leaders in the NHS and government need to take responsibility for those figures. So here he is, the man himself, our favourite, our very own Secretary of State, the Health Minister. The Royal College of Midwives do work with the Minister. We are apolitical, although sometimes I know it doesn't feel like that, but we are. We do work with any minister in health. We work with junior ministers, and we work with, people that are trying to influence. That's part of our role, is to try and influence. And believe you me, our Chief Executive, Cathy Warwick, is banging on Jeremy Hunt's door just about every other week. She meets with them, he has a whole team with them, he listens, he engages, and he does actually come up with the goods sometimes. And sometimes the goods are very tough goods. And this particular one, Spotlight on Maternity Care, is one of the toughest things that out there that you're going to be facing, that you're going to be working with, that you're going to have to understand as student midwives and as midwives working in the field. And mums are obviously contributing to this as well, because they're advising government too, users, mums and fathers, that we are trying to achieve this huge goal that by 2030 there is a big ambition to reduce the rate of stillbirths, neonatal and maternal deaths by 50%. Now, when he first talked about that, and he came to the Royal College of Midwives and asked us what our view was on that, he also went to RCOG. We said, no, absolutely too high. That's a real worry for us. So he said, well, if we break it down into targets over the years, what about how would that go down? So we said that felt much more comfortable, that actually breaking it down in that way. And to be fair, if we don't set our gauge high, if we set it low in the first instance, we're not going to get anywhere. And this is serious stuff, reducing stillbirths, neonatal deaths, maternal mortality. So he actually broke it down, and he developed this, obviously with advisors and help from Department of Health, RCOG and RCM, etc., actually developed Spotlight on Maternity Care. Also, the impact on brain injury, HIE, is also part of this reduction in this big target and big goal. So this, although it's a tough challenge, I think is a real positive. It doesn't feel good out there when you're actually working in maternity to think, goodness me, I've got to reach this goal as a leader and a head of midwifery, but actually when you think about it, it's the right way, it's the way forward. Someone's going to be talking about the care bundle, so just flick through the care bundle, that's part of it all. The RCOG National Initiative, Each Baby Counts. Key messages, things that we're all working together, RCOG and RCM. It's not about counting the number of kicks as we used to do in the old-fashioned days. It's about the kind of kicks, and it's about the changes in the kicks, and it's about any change that women should be reporting, and they're doing a huge assessment and a huge audit and reporting on that. So that's a really important initiative in terms of trying to reduce the numbers of stillbirths and poor outcomes in pregnancy. Attain. This is another initiative. I've just got to look this one up because I always forget what Attain stands for. It is about readmissions, and it is avoiding term admissions in neonatal units, and it's led by NHS England. And Attain are looking at respiratory rates, infection rates, hypoglycemia, jaundice, asphyxia, and obviously admitted HIE, and also looking at the communications, patient information, engagement, etc. And they're looking at the multidisciplinary training and education of midwives and obstetricians, etc. I understand that this is moving forward quite fast. They've started to do some reports now. They have actually disbanded the asphyxia group because it's already produced some data. But if you look on the website, if you Google Attain, you'll see some more information, and they do regular newsletters out for anybody interested, but they send them around the organisations. So it's a really important piece of work in terms of trying to reduce poor outcomes. The RCM, SANS and DH collaboration, I'm not going to go into too much about that because SANS are here today and they're going to be speaking about the work that they're doing, but just to suffice that we're really pleased to be working with SANS, a wonderful organisation to collaborate with, and there's some really exciting things that are going on there in terms of that joint work, and not least of all, wee bit fuzzy the bereavement care network, which SANS I'm sure will go into a little bit of detail. But I think it shows you that we recognise that this is not just one organisation, not just one profession, not just one responsibility. This is all of us together. It's the women and their families, it's the Royal Colleges, it's the Department of Health. So what else is the RCM doing? Well, we're linking up with stakeholders, as I said, at the Department of Health, the wonderful Department of Health. So we're linking with DH, NHS England, as I mentioned, the care bundles, each baby counts, all of that work. We're working together to try and improve the outcomes. RCM, we've developed an iLearn module on bereavement care. Has anybody had a look at the iLearn module? Don't raise your hands, just a few nods there, yes or no. Really brilliant module if you are trying to understand a bit better and learn more about bereavement care. We've commissioned a module around breaking bad news, which will go on our iLearn programme once that's been developed. So we're doing an awful lot, and as I said, closely working with other people. Now then, you can't do anything today without policy. How long have I got? 5? 4, okay. So there we are. You can't do anything without mentioning this. This is the fancy. And the reason I'm doing this is my life, this is my world. And this is what maternity transformation is about. This is it. And that's all the work streams there. And the golden thread that's woven through this is safety. That is about outcomes for mums, babies, and so on. So it's safety. So there you are. You can look up maternity transformation programme later. I was asked to just mention building resilience. Well, we need to have a resilient workforce out there to actually cope with all of that pressure and all of that stress, and particularly when we're looking after mums who have got an intrauterine death, have suffered miscarriage, or who have, sadly, a fresh stillborn baby. That impact on the family, as I mentioned, is horrendous, but the impact on the midwives, students and support workers is also horrendous. So we need to build resilience. Have a look on the website at Billie Hunter's work on resilience. It's brilliant. It's really good. She shows how midwives are actually starting to build a resilience in terms of coping. Things like walking your dog really helps, things like that. It's really good. Okay, oh my goodness, this has gone all fancy. Oh, I had to weave in, of course, the Caring for You campaign, because that's what we're doing to support our staff. Look that up on our website as well, because we care about you, and so should the NHS care about you. It's really important that we get as many organisations as possible to sign up to the Caring for You Charter. Not only sign, but then make an action plan and move it forward. And we've got over 75 heads of midwifery that have signed this. So we've only got about another 60 to go. So Bradford has signed it. You also had Make Every Day Count, or Every Day Matters. So you already had an initiative underway anyway, so it was easy in Bradford to sign up to our Caring for You campaign. I'll just let you have a wee read of the importance of caring for you. Stress and anxiety. Stress eroding my creativity. My mental health has suffered. If we're feeling like that and you're feeling like that, how are you going to care for the women and their babies who are also, when you're having a baby, it's quite a stressful time in your life. So this is me, this is not RCM, this is me. I implore, when I talk to heads of midwifery and when I talk to leaders in the profession, really implore them, really ask them, please, we'll help you. Please sign up to Caring for You. It's really important that we care for the midwives and the student. If we want healthy, happy, strong, resilient midwives, students and maternity support workers. We need to look after every single one of them, every single one of you, and not just do it in a tokenistic way. It's a serious situation where midwives are leaving. Student midwives aren't coping due to workplace pressures, stress, and the feeling and the perception of lack of support and actual lack of support. Everybody in this room that's a midwife, student midwife, a support worker, deserves to be cared for at work. And students need nurturing throughout their education and learning journey. And that's what we're not good at. I don't know why, I don't know if it's stress, but we're not good at looking after one another and nurturing one another. You all deserve to be cared for. If we can get this bit right, then the impact will be strong on the workforce, where we've got really healthy, happy, resilient teams working together, training together, and the outcomes for our women and their babies and their families will improve. Go to the website and you'll see more about the Caring for You campaign. 2 minutes on Mariposa Trust, which is, there's wonderful charities out there. We've got Mama speaking today, we've got Louis charity here today, and we've got SANS. There's absolutely some terrific charities, and every charity is needed, and every charity has a real sort of theme. This particular charity that I'm an ambassador for is about supporting women who have had baby loss, but maybe many years ago, and they put on non-denominational services, and they have big turnouts, and we have 80-year-old women turning up that have never had an opportunity to grieve and think about their baby, not being allowed to talk about it, or just conveniently forgotten about it because they weren't encouraged to talk about it. So this is a particularly supportive organisation to support women any time from when they've first lost their babies or in later years. It doesn't matter how long ago. Again, you can go on the website and learn about Caring for You. One of the biggest things that they're doing this year is this campaign for a national certificate. Many women are feeling, obviously they're grieved and they're bereaved and they're sad, but some women have got nothing to show for having had a baby, nothing at all. And what Saying Goodbye is campaigning for is a national certificate, if women and their families want it. So if you lose a baby at 20 weeks or 23 weeks gestation, you can have something that says you've had a baby. There are many women out there that are suffering because they've got nothing to show. We're getting better at it, and if the baby's bigger, obviously we're doing things like little handprints, footprints, etc. But small gestational age, we've got nothing. So the women are wanting a national certificate. There we are, bang on time. I'll leave you with Zoe's last slide. That's what we're all here for, caring for women, supporting them through their pregnancy for healthy outcomes. Thank you.